Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Wednesday. I hope the day is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Thank you, as always, for joining me. We are now halfway through another week, a week where football does return. We have internationals to look forward to over the next week and a half now, kicking off tomorrow from an Arsenal point of view. Plenty of players in action with their national teams. We'll be able to keep an eye on that. Fingers crossed, of course. No injuries. But there's still plenty to get stuck into today. We are, of course, probably about halfway through now, this first mini transfer window of the summer. It is about to slam shut, as they like to say, pretty soon ahead of the Club World Cup. And then it opens again, of course, after that for the rest of the summer. Lots of stuff going on, lots of moves happening, lots of deals happening, none involving Arsenal, of course, much to the frustration of everyone. But there is still plenty to talk about. We're going to talk about Martin Zubimendi. He is away with Spain, obviously, on the international break. I'm sure lots of you have seen sort of bits and pieces of what he had to say in a call with a Spanish radio station yesterday when he talked about Arsenal, where he was asked about Arsenal, the transfer speculation, Real Madrid, all that sort of stuff. So we'll have a look at what he's had to say. I'll give my thoughts on that because I had loads of questions from you guys here in the comments from over in the Inside Arsenal Patreon, on the Discord. Lots of you have been talking about it as well. So I'll give my thoughts on it here. We're going to talk, sort of go over the reactions to Leroy Sane stuff as well, which generated loads of talking points from yesterday in the potential of a Leroy Sane move to Arsenal. Got lots of reaction, pretty much all negative, which I'm not surprised about because I feel exactly the same way, I have to say. But we'll share a couple of what you guys have had to say on that. And we've got other bits and pieces to get stuck into. But like I said, we'll start with Martin Zubimendi. Now, I've recorded a show with Alex Kirtland, ESPN's Madrid correspondent, on Zubimendi. I was going to put it out tonight. I might not put it out tonight now. I might wait because I'm doing today's show kind of focusing on Zubimendi. I might wait 24 hours or so before putting the Zubimendi show out later on today. But I will put it out. Really good insight from Alex into Zubimendi, his time in Spain, what he thinks he'll bring to this Arsenal team. Alex, if you don't know, although he's a Madrid correspondent for ESPN, he's actually a big Arsenal fan as well. So he's got some really good insight into what he thinks Zubimendi will bring to Arsenal if he signs. I think it's still more of a case of when he signs rather than if. But obviously, his quotes yesterday to the Spanish radio station have sort of generated a lot of discussion. You know, is it as concrete as we thought it was, all that sort of stuff. So before I give my thoughts on it, this is what he had to say yesterday when he was asked about the summer and everything like that in Arsenal. He said, of course, there are options, but it's true that it seems like it's going to be a different long summer, and I don't know how it will end. I'm not thinking about that right now. It's not my priority. I'm here with the national team, which is, I think, already quite demanded. And if I have to say something, then I will. He was then asked about the reports that he had a medical or was undergoing a medical in London, and the fact that when those reports came out, he posted a picture of himself on a beach in Spain, I think in San Sebastian, and he was asked about why he did that, and he said, it's an example of what surrounds football. Many times I wake up in the morning and I read things that I didn't know I had done. That was a clear example. It's true that I don't take it very seriously, but anyway, I uploaded those photos to emphasize a little that it wasn't exactly the reality that was happening. He was then asked about the Real Madrid stuff and whether he was waiting for Real Madrid and all, which we've seen obviously reported in the Spanish media. And he said, I have always said that he, Alonso, of course, the new Real Madrid coach, was my idol. And that for me, it was lucky that he was able to coach me in the reserve team in a very important year. The following year, I was already in the first team. And well, I don't like to talk about those hypotheses. I prefer to talk about the present. So lots to sort of pick the bones out of there. And lots of people are sort of getting worried about what he's had to say. You know, is this deal going to happen or is it not? Personally, my thoughts on it are, not even my thoughts on it. I would be very, very surprised if this deal doesn't happen. I'm still absolutely what I'm thinking about it. What I was thinking about it yesterday before these quotes, I still feel exactly the same. I think he can't really talk about it yet because the deal's not happened. He's away on international duty. And so he can't really say what publicly he probably wants to say. It's got to be the case of, look, my focus is on the national team right now. I can't really say anything. It's going to be a different summer. It's going to be a long summer, you know, and so I don't really look at what he said there and think to myself, oh, he's changing his mind or anything like that. Obviously, we know he's got past history of changing his mind. Liverpool fans will remember that only too well last summer. But I don't think that is the case here. You know, Arsenal are very, very confident that this deal is done. It's all agreed. It's just a case of getting him over here and finishing it off. And obviously, at the moment, he's on international duty, so he can't do that. There's also been reports that maybe Sociedad don't want the deal done and confirmed until July because they want it in next year's accounts rather than this year's accounts. So there's lots of sort of moving parts on this deal. In terms of when he talks about the medical, I think that's a classic case of just not misreporting, but people taking what's being reported and sort of changing it a little bit. Because, you know, when Sammy broke that story, he wasn't saying that he was having a medical. He was saying the deal is done subject to a medical. And then all of a sudden, it started being sort of, people were saying, oh, he's having his medical. And that's not the case. And that's probably what, when he says he's sort of reading stuff that's not happening, I think he probably saw people on social media also, oh, Zubimendi is having a medical at Arsenal. And that's not what was reported in the first place. So what was reported was it's all now done and agreed subject to a medical, which will happen at some point. And then the move can be confirmed. And I think that is still exactly where we are. From my understanding, it's exactly where we are. We've just got to wait for the medical to be done, and then it will be completed. But at the moment, the medical hasn't been done and can't be done. He's on international duty, and so we'll have to wait until afterwards. So nothing that he said there is really concerning me, I have to say. The slight one is, obviously, we know he, as he says, he idolises Xabi Alonso, and Xabi Alonso's gone to Real Madrid, and there is talk that Madrid are still hopeful of being able to hijack this deal. The one little doubt in my mind, if I have one, is about whether Real Madrid suddenly come in and that changes Zubimendi's thinking. But it will take a massive U-turn for this deal not to happen. Massive U-turn. So Arsenal is still confident. What he said yesterday, everything that's done around it, it doesn't change my opinion on it. I still think it gets done. That's my honest opinion on it. So we'll have to wait and see on it. So yeah, but thank you for all the questions that have come my way about it on here, on my other social media channels, on the Discord and all that sort of stuff. So that's my thoughts on Zubimendi. I still expect that to happen. So yeah, keep an eye out for the extra show that I'm going to do with Alex, or have done with Alex. Like I said, I was going to put it out tonight, but I'm just not sure tonight is the time to put it out now, because I've done this bit on him. And also, I think people are too worried at the moment about the move being hijacked. So I might wait 24 hours or so and put it out. But it is coming out very, very soon. And it does give some good insight into in Zubimendi. Rodrigo as well, we talk about, obviously, from Alex's time as a correspondent over there. He's got some good insight into Rodrigo and his future. Obviously, if Zubimendi does come in, then he's going to be replacing Jorginho, who is going out. And it looks like that deal is going to be done in time for the Club World Cup. So obviously his contract does not end officially with Arsenal until after the Club World Cup. So they've had to come to some sort of agreement for him to be able to play for Flamengo. It looked at a time that was going to happen. Then it looked like it wasn't going to happen. But now it looks like it is going to happen. Again, Jorginho's come up with an agreement where he's sort of waiving some of the money or all of the money that he would have been paid if he'd have stayed out and saw the last 6 weeks of his contract out. And he's come to an agreement with Arsenal. Now they're going to be able to release him early. He's going to fly over to Brazil. Apparently, he's going to be landing in Brazil early hours of Thursday morning to complete his move to Flamengo. And then he will be signed and ready to feature in their Club World Cup. It's going to forgo about £800,000 by all accounts. Not quite the 10 million the Liverpool are getting for Trent Alexander-Arnold going to Real Madrid, but Arsenal still saving a little bit of money with Jorginho completing his move to Flamengo. Good luck to him as well. You know, I've had my say on Jorginho. I think it's been a fantastic signing. I hope he goes back. He goes to Brazil. It's a great time there at the end of his career. It'd be great to see him do well in the Club World Cup as well. Brilliant professional. Well loved at Arsenal by pretty much everyone you speak to. He's been a fabulous player, I think, since he's been here. Really good signing. And yeah, good luck to Jorginho on his next step. Right, let's talk about Leroy Sane now. Obviously, we spoke about him yesterday in the show. I gave my thoughts on the reports that Arsenal have held sort of exploratory talks. It's nothing more than that at the moment. You know, Leroy Sane's agent is putting him out to the market. He's out of contract. Contract talks are going on at Bayern Munich, obviously, but they haven't come to a successful conclusion yet. So Leroy Sane's agent is out on the market, seeing who might be involved, who might be interested, talking to a host of clubs, I imagine. It's not just Arsenal. We've already seen that Tottenham apparently are a club that he's spoken to, and they are quite heavily interested by all accounts, but he would have spoken to an awful lot of clubs as well. It just won't be Arsenal. But I did give my thoughts on it yesterday. It's not one that excites me. I have to say that there'd be far more concerns and excitement if Arsenal were to sign Leroy Sane. I think that says something has gone pretty wrong in their transfer business, especially only, well, I'll clarify that. If Arsenal went out and signed a left winger for now and for the future, someone who is a real sort of an Eze, a Nico Williams, a Rodrigo, someone like that. If you get them in the window and you get Sane as well, fine. I'm perfectly happy with that. But if it's just Sane, if he's the only winger who arrives, then for me, that's something that's just not good enough. There's too many red flags for that. That's not what Arsenal need right now to improve the squad. So it would be a very underwhelming thing. Not even underwhelming, it'd just be a worrying thing for me in terms of what Arsenal are doing in the transfer market. And I said that yesterday, and there's been lots of responses to that. Jason here has got in touch. He spoke to me. He put out the message on the Discord channel, which all Inside Arsenal members on Patreon get access to, which is really picking up a lot of steam at the moment. The Discord, it's loads of good discussion in there at the moment. So please do, if you haven't signed up yet, you can sign up down below to become an Inside Arsenal member. You can join in all the chat on the Discord. As I said, it's getting very active in there now, which is great to see. Jason has got in touch on one of the threads and asked, I think I put this in the wrong section, moving it here. Hey, Charles, quick comment, then a question. Fair play to you for sharing a couple of silly comments representing the extreme side of the fan base. Those who prefer bluster and rage over substance and sense, who think Football Manager and FIFA career mode are real life. There is a big difference between being realistic and having a small club mentality. Your level-headed common sense commentary is refreshing in this age of keyboard warriors. Thank you very much, Jason. I try my best. And then you ask, the Sane links give me Willian and Sterling vibes. What could be the team's thought or approach? If we get Sane instead of Semenyo, Eze, Gittins or Xavi Simons type of younger, hungrier, less injury-prone, equally skilled players, what could be the team's thought or approach? Honestly, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't even be able to say what their thought or approach are if that was what they did over all the other targets and he was the only other winger. That's why I was saying it wouldn't just be an underwhelming signing, it would be a worrying signing, because I just wouldn't understand the thought process that would have got in to bringing in Leroy Sane. Good player, don't get me wrong, was a great player, still a good player, but investing that sort of money wages-wise, even on a free transfer, it just reeks of, where's the planning? If that's the plan, what has been the plan the whole time? That's why I would be really concerned about it. I don't think they'll do it. I really don't. I think that just wouldn't. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel Arsenal to me. I know everyone go, they did Raheem Sterling, but that was because loads of things happened last summer when they couldn't get the deals done they wanted, and they were left scrambling around at the end. I don't think that summer is going to be repeated this summer. So I don't think this happens. But if it did, and he was the only winger, I would be really worried about the sort of thought process and the planning that we've been told all about. The plan's been set in place for ages. We're just ready to execute it. If this ends up being the plan, then yeah, I would have a lot of concerns. And a lot of you have got in touch. As I said, there's a couple here. These are quite long, but D Chan says, why do you assume that Sane would be the only wide player brought in? There seems to be an assumption that if Sane is signed, then that's all there will be. Could he not be an upgrade on Trossard? As to the Sterling comparison, he's played far fewer minutes than Sterling in his career and is coming off a better season. This reeks of a kind of association that left a lot of fans losing their heads when Jorginho was signed, because we still have the bad taste from Willian, but it proved to be a good signing. Then talk about Sane, scores goals, scored 12 last season, player for both teams. I agree with all that. I don't think he's a bad player, Leroy Sane, but I just wouldn't quite understand the thought process going into the signing. And also, I think the Jorginho comparison is a little bit different because of the position he plays, where he's never relied on pace and all that sort of stuff. It's all clever thinking. When you're signing players, wingers who have always relied on their explosive pace to get them away, all that sort of stuff, that's where I get really, really concerned when you get to the sort of age that Sane is, if you're giving him a big, long contract. So that would be my concern. And when you say, why do you assume that Sane would be any wide player brought in? I don't. That's what I'm saying. I'd be fine with it if another wide player comes in at the same time. I did say that yesterday as well. Then you got Alex below that saying Sane would be unbelievably disappointed in signing. Nowadays, he's far from the player he was at City, and I wouldn't even consider an upgrade on Martinelli or Trossard, neither of whom I rate particularly highly. We need to stop signing players on a downwards trajectory whose best years are clearly behind them. Sane has all the makings of another Willian or Sterling. I'd rather see us sign a young winger who hasn't hit their peak yet than another washed-up veteran from a bargain bin. Same is true of the striker position. For all the concerns about whether Sesko can make an immediate impact or not, at least there's no denying his best years are still ahead of him. If reports are to be to believe, we're supposedly more than willing to splash out 50 million on Howson Had he chosen us instead of Madrid, this would surely have been in addition to the near mandatory striker signing and existing commitment to Zubimendi. There's clearly money available to be spent, so I'd personally be vexed if we decide to go the penny pinching route and grab Sane on a free. I have to say, Alex, I could have written that myself. It's put kind of word for word how I feel about it. Apart from you saying you don't rate Martinelli or Trossard, because I do. But apart from that, yeah, my thoughts are very, very similar. There were so many other comments and questions and that I could have included, but if I'd have done that, it would have been about an hour-long show today. So thank you very much for getting involved. Appreciate your reaction as always. A couple more now before we wrap this one up. DIY Home and Gardening has got in touch, which I presume is a business name. Says, hi, Charles. With the Chelsea option not being taken up on Sancho, I have to say I wouldn't be disappointed for us to take Sancho on if the terms are right. We know how good he was before United bought him. He's still young, can play on both wings and technically very good. Feels like his confidence had a proper kick in at both United and Chelsea, and I think he could do wonders with some TLC. Thoughts welcome. Not for me, mate. Not for me. I am done with taking underperforming players from supposed rivals. I just don't think that is what Arsenal need right now. Sancho's a good player. I think he's shown in flashes at Chelsea that he's a good player, but clearly consistency issues there. And I don't want to someone you have to really work on to get the best out of and take that sort of risk again. Just not for me. No, I think he's done all right at Chelsea, but he's not blown me away. And that is absolutely not one that I would be looking at when it comes to fixing the wide player issue at Arsenal. Got one from Mergin. It says, hi, Charles. I really hope you reflect on this in next episode because I can't figure out myself. What I don't quite understand is that we've known what our transfer priorities for this summer were since last summer. In January, we deliberately chose not to bring a striker in, opting instead to keep our powder dry for this window. So how is it, according to reporting from the most reliable journalists, we're still in the process of figuring out what a potential deal for Sesco Gyökeres would cost? When we signed Rice, we had been laying the groundwork for months. We've been interested in Sesco since last season and even tried to get him in January. So how on earth is it that we're still having conversations with him and Leipzig just to figure out what a deal could potentially look like? Surely this should have been mapped out long ago. Don't get why this whole process is taking so long. We've had so much time to prepare. Again, I think your memory's being clouded a little bit there because yes, you talk about Rice, but it's not like that didn't drag on. Arsenal signed Rice, I think, on July the 15th. What are we now? June the 3rd or June the 4th. So it's not like we signed Rice at the start of the window. Yes, it was a deal that we were started talking and trying to set up in the January of that year or even before that. But it's not like as soon as the season finished that it got wrapped up. I know we had to wait for West Ham to finish in the Conference League and all that, but it still dragged on until mid-July before it was done. So it's a good sort of 6 or 7 weeks away from where we are now. So sorry, my phone's ringing. I'm just cutting that out. So I think I get what you're saying, and I am surprised. I thought that a really sort of firm decision would have been taken by now and would have been known by now. And from speaking to all the people that I usually speak to, I generally don't think that has actually been the case. What I think is happening at the moment is loads of the groundwork has been done. I think Arsenal are working really hard on both deals to know exactly what it's going to take to get both. And those can always change with the selling club and all that sort of stuff. But I think they are working on both deals right now to know exactly what the framework is. And then they're going to pull the trigger on one. I think that's how Bursa's operating. When you sort of look at what he's done before, I think that's how he operated at Atletico Madrid. It's get as many deals lined up as possible to know exactly what it's going to take, and then bang, you pull your finger on, you pull the trigger on one and go and get it done. I think that's what they are doing. But yeah, I do understand the sort of how it looks and all that sort of stuff. We've known about Sesco for ages. Kind of Gyökeres has been talked about for a long, long time as well. Why aren't we able to just go out and get it done now? And I know the frustration is there. I can see it. I can feel it myself because I want it done. I want them to really attack this window very, very quickly and get the key players done very, very quickly. It's not quite happened yet, but it is still, although it feels like it's longer, it is still June the 4th. The window's only been open a few days and it is only a very special window mainly for Club World Cup type things. So there's still a long way to go. And I hate saying we've got to be patient because I know that word annoys everyone when it comes to the transfer window. It annoys me. But I do think we have to be a little bit patient when it comes to a when it does come to that. I think we've got one more here from Toy, who says, "Hi Charles, thanks for the content. Long-term listener, but I have to agree that Arsenal do not behave like a big club for the most part. One of the listeners made a comparison between us, PSG, and Liverpool, but then you only focused on PSG and their unlimited resources. Liverpool have more." I don't know this word. I've never seen this word before. Analogous, I think it is, are more analogous to us, which I presume means comparable to us and our operating models. Look at the bench compared to ours. Darwin Núñez has failed in 2 seasons. They're moving him on. Yet we will persist and not do the same with Havertz. But Havertz hasn't failed. I don't understand that comment. Havertz has been a good signing. I will die on that hill. Havertz has been good for Arsenal. It took him a few months, but since then he's been good. He's been miles better than Darwin Núñez, and is a really important player in this team. So I don't like that comparison, I have to say. Furthermore, we should be looking at 2 wingers and a forward, no question. One to replace Martinelli and one to give Saka serious competition. Do not give us a reply in Ranieri as Saka's replacement. And as everyone saw how many minutes he got at the business end of last season, if Arteta is serious about being ruthless, then this is the time. Again, I don't really agree with it. Ranieri needs minutes. We're trying to get him to sign a new contract. He's going to have to play. He's going to play more. That was his first season last season, and he played plenty. Yes, he came out the team towards the end of it, because I think honestly his form started to dip, and the season caught up with him. But he's going to be a year older next season. He's going to have experience of his first breakout season in the Premier League behind him. He's going to need to get more minutes next season as you continue to build him up than he had last season. So I think Ranieri has to be taken into account. You can't, we're sitting here calling for Ranieri to play more all the time, and so we can't then forget about him when you're planning for next season. He has to get minutes, a lot of them next year. So I don't think you can just say that he can't be the competition. I think he has to be. I think he's good enough to be as well. So I don't really agree with some of those comments on it, and also talk about Liverpool and PSG and all that sort of stuff in the big club. If you'd gone back 12 months to Liverpool fans, they'd have been absolutely fuming. They didn't sign anyone last summer at all. And they were saying the exact same things that Arsenal fans are saying right now. So I do think it goes in cycles as well. They've had a brilliant, fair play to them. They have attacked this window with real intent, and that's exactly what you want from your team. And you've got to credit Liverpool for that. And I would love to see Arsenal acting like that in this transfer window. But last summer, they did absolutely nothing. Paid off for them as well. But at the time, Liverpool fans were absolutely fuming about the fact they'd done nothing and not given Arne Slot any new players or anything like that. So again, it does go in cycles. And again, it is only June the 4th. I have to keep reiterating that. But that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it all as always. And like I said, remember, there is a Martin Zubimendi special coming out. Probably not tonight now. I think I'm going to put it out probably maybe on Friday, something like that. We'll have to wait and see. But it is coming. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Until tomorrow, have a great day, everyone. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.